In the 1960s, a couple of American psychologists explored nonverbal communication. They adopted a young female chimpanzee called Washoe.
And so the talking part, the speaking part, did not go very well with the apes. And then Washoe was trained to use the hands. The apes have much better control over their hands than over their voice.
For example, where it was obvious that Washoe was going to...
The experiment consisted of immersing Washoe in human society, like a human baby. They knew Washoe could not vocalize, so they brought her up in the way they would a deaf and mute child, using sign language. When Washoe grew up, would she be able to communicate like human offspring? Over a 5-year period, the young chimp memorized some 150 words, which she became adept at signing. She could express her needs, such as drinking, eating, and sleeping. Then one day, researchers observed that Washoe, now a mother, was teaching the sign language to her own offspring. Hug.
Hug.
This sign means hug. I want a hug. The experiment in establishing a man-animal dialogue was a success. But since Washoe, researchers have changed their tack.
If you raise a chimpanzee in your home, as a human child basically, the ape starts to think of itself as a human. The ape becomes more human-like in its behavior and also in its perception of who the ape is, its self-identity, so that it is harder for that ape to get along with other apes in the future. If you want to introduce that chimpanzee to a chimpanzee colony, there's this difference of perception going on.
Many people have tried for many years to teach animals to speak to us using English or American Sign Language. What I realized, the more I learned about animal communication, is that that's not the right way. We need to talk to them in their own language.
Scientists learned from the Washoe experiment that teaching a human language to an animal distances it from its identity. Man should therefore learn the language of the animal instead.
It was a great surprise, and a very exciting one, when we first realized that great ape gestural communication was intentional in the way that human language is.
With gestures, it's a communication to somebody. It is something where they will get the attention of the individual they want to communicate to.
We have a goal behind the communication. We don't just do it in that sense. We do it for a purpose.
For the last 12 years, primatologist Catherine Hobeiter has traveled to the Ugandan forest. There, she studies chimpanzee families, observing their gestural communication. She is compiling a dictionary of these gestures. But first, this visual vocabulary needs to be spelled out.
So in this video, the male chimpanzee is going to gesture to a female chimpanzee to say, "Come here, I want you to move towards me." And he's doing the big object shake, both hands. And you can see the female, she's just sitting at the edge of the screen, looking at him, and he stops and he waits for a response. But again, that first gestural communication didn't work. And so he's now stopping, he's taking stock, he's thinking, okay, what am I going to do next? Now the male chimpanzee, he's repeating that gesture. So he's got that big object shake, first with one hand, then with two hands. And the female's looking over at him, so he's got her attention, and he's repeating and really persisting here. He's really being insistent that he wants her to come to him. And you see that seems to have done the trick, and she's moving over, and she greets him. He's the alpha, and then they're gonna sit down and rest together. So he's achieved his goal there. She's moved over to him and is sitting next to him.
Catherine Hobeiter has already identified and logged a vocabulary of over 70 gestures. It is available online for all researchers who wish to communicate with large primates. The dictionary is also accessible to the general public and researchers are also invited to contribute their discoveries to it if they so wish. Day after day, week after week, Catherine Hobeiter continues to add to her dictionary.
In this video, the young chimp in the middle actually has some meat with him, which is a really tasty treat for the chimps. They're really focused on meat, and the others are all coming around him, all coming to see if they can persuade him. And the young female has just sat down and she's just gently stroking under his mouth there, which is a begging gesture. I want some of that.
Catherine Hobeiter has made an astonishing discovery. Some of the primates' gestures are universal. All large primates can understand them, even man.
You beg for food. We think the origin of that gesture is to cup a hand under the mouth of someone who's eating something to get scraps of food. That's the origin. And then it was used from a distance to get food from someone who's more at a distance. But that gesture can also be used to beg for support. Let's say I have a fight with somebody else and I want your support. I can beg for support.
We find that in chimpanzees, orangutans, bonobos, and gorillas. It has the same meaning. Why I say it's surprising is because it never occurred to me that I didn't learn to beg in that way when I was a child by copying it from other people. Essentially, these gestures seem to us, both their form and their meaning, to be very strongly governed by the genetic inheritance of the species.
Despite their joint heritage, primates and humans will never be able to communicate via speech. But does that mean humans should abandon all hope of one day being able to speak to animals?